You know your stuff. I see you.
That's a pretty good question.
Batting 8, the left fielder, number 51, Ichiro Suzuki.
For the Ducks,
24.
number 24.
Chad, you playing a game right now?
Hello everybody, welcome to Chad Talk Sports. I'm Chad, and today my guest is Seattle Kraken TV analyst and NHL veteran JT Brown. How you doing today, JT?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Good, just got done with school, grabbed a little snack, then got excited for this.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, I told all my friends about this today because obviously the Kraken are big up here, and especially with it being their first year, all my friends are super jealous. So.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Well, it's going to go well. It's going to go good.
I want to start off with asking you with the big news that came out the last couple of days about you and Everett being the first all-black broadcast booth this upcoming. How did that feel to be a part of that?
It's exciting, just to be a part of it with Everett. He's a good friend, somebody who I've been able to, get to know since coming over to Seattle. So I think we kind of knew it was going to happen at some point, but the way that the stars aligned, it's a really good opportunity, and I couldn't be happier that I'm going to be able to do that with Everett.
Yeah, because you guys have been doing those sports science things, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Obviously, calling a game is going to be a little bit different than doing the sports science little pieces, but that's just a little bit of an insight of just how we are, and just a little bit of the friendship that we have already had in this short amount of time.
Do you think that'll because usually it's more of you're like the guy that comes in second and talks more. Do you think you'll be more prominent in this one with Everett, or do you think
No, I think it'll just be natural. Everett is a very talented play-by-play over on the radio side. I've been able to listen to some of his calls as well. I don't think anything really has to change. I think the only difference now is that let's say in between the period, when you come back on, you got to look at the camera instead of just speaking for Everett's side. I think once he gets going, he's going to be right at home.
Then what kind of influenced you to take this job with the Kraken?
So there was a couple things. I think one for starters, just the organization and what they believe in. I think that sort of had an impact on me, but I think the other thing I looked at is just I did a mock broadcast, and I enjoyed it. I had a fun time with John, even though it was something I had never done before, or something that I was really planning or thinking of doing, I guess. But I think that was another thing, and then also just being able to retire on my own terms, if that makes sense. Not want to have to be forced out, and just sort of just kind of just looking at the future of what was ahead and seeing the opportunity that was here in Seattle. You have a pros and cons list in your head of what's going to be, your option. And for me, it ended up being a pretty easy decision to, hang up the skates and, join the broadcast team here with Seattle.
And also you got to go out with a season with your hometown growing up team. So that had to be cool.
Yeah, so that's the last NHL team, being able to play for them. Obviously, it's special to play for a team where you grew up in. And even just, going overseas, my last year playing in Sweden was fun. It was a really cool experience, something that, I maybe never thought I was going to end up having. And, again, same thing with, taking the broadcast job. The opportunity in Sweden just happened to be in front of me. I was like, all right, well, this is what, I'm going to do this. And see how it turns out. And, I kind of had that same approach with the broadcast. I felt that, it was something I could be good at, but I had to kind of take that jump and make that decision to kind of leave the playing side behind and move on to the next chapter.
And you not only played your growing up in Minnesota, you also played college there and then the pros. How was that being able to stay local for college and then eventually coming back home with the pros?
Yeah, so playing in Minnesota Duluth was awesome. It was a great time, great hockey school, and just far enough away from my hometown, but still close enough where you could go home, and it wasn't a hassle to get home all the time. So it was nice, and being able to win a national championship in Minnesota at the Exile Energy Center was pretty awesome as far as a college career goes. I thought that did a lot of learning and developing there when it came to playing and getting ready to be a pro, and then to come back. I knew it was always on my mind, in a way that you'd want to go back and play there. You never knew when. Obviously, I enjoyed my time in Tampa and in Anaheim as well, and that opportunity was there for me. So I definitely wanted to try to play, and kind of glad that it was later on in my career versus say if it was your first year and you already have the pressures of just playing, having your friends watch every single game. I think, going later in my career was beneficial.
And then with you growing up in Minnesota, your dad played for the Minnesota Vikings. With him being an NFL pro, did he kind of push you to lean towards playing football, or was he more like, yeah, let's do this hockey thing? Or when did you first start doing hockey?
So I started playing hockey. I was, first time on skates about like 2-3 years old, somewhere around there. Not that I was actually skating, like not on your own, but just getting out on the ice in Minnesota. It's really common to be out, very young. So I've always had, just living in Minnesota, I think that hockey has kind of been what I've been drawn to. I think it was probably around right when I started going to high school is when I really decided that I wanted to take the hockey route instead of the football route. I just think a lot of that came down to, just what I enjoyed most. And I think the creativity of hockey, versus for football, for me, it was, you get the play called and then all of a sudden, then you run the play, then you rehuddle, you call another play. And I just liked the flow of hockey. It just felt more comfortable, for myself. And I had a lot of friends that played the game as well versus, the friends that played football. And then going to my dad's side of it, he always jokes and says that he knew, all along that I was going to want to play hockey over football. So he was ready for, that final decision when I was done playing football. But he always said that when I was a young kid that I would have to get woken up for a football practice that was early in the morning, and he'd have to kind of, really get me out of the house. Whereas a hockey practice, I'd be already up, ready to go, and waking him up saying, hey, let's go, let's get to practice. We got practice. So he kind of knew from an early age that my passion was towards hockey and not football. Even though I liked playing the game, that was where my passion lied.
Did you play any other sports when you were young, like soccer or baseball?
Yep, I played both of those: soccer, baseball, basketball, pretty much everything that I could do. You just wanted to play as many sports as possible. And it's changed a little bit. I feel like, since I played, where now kids are playing a little bit more of one sport or trying to, train for hockey year round or whatever that sport may be. For myself, it was definitely a mixture of all of the sports put into a season. And, once hockey season came around, then it was time to grind the hockey.
Yeah. So for me, when I was younger, I also used to love hockey. We have a team right down the road, Everett Silvertips. And so I used to go down to their rink all the time. And at one point, my dad said I had the choice because hockey's expensive. He said I had the choice, either hockey or everything else. And my little mind was like, one is smaller than three.
No, I agree that it is. That's one of the tough things about this sport, especially too in an area where it's less accessible. Obviously, Seattle's not the same as Minnesota. I think one of the cool things about Minnesota, where I don't know how I'm saying this, but the cool thing is that you can go out in the freezing cold and go out on a frozen pond and go play that way versus having to have ice time and actually structured scheduled practices where as a kid we would just go straight to the park and go play at the pond. And that's where we got a lot of our the hockey playing done, and it took some of the expenses away from the game as well, having the option to just go play all winter outside. which I again, going back to it, I'm like, man, that was a cool part to be freezing cold, putting on 3 pairs of socks to go play on a pond. But, that's one thing that, those cold climate cities and places have over, maybe a non-traditional hockey market.
Yeah, it doesn't get cold. It does get cold here, like you've seen, but it doesn't really snow and ice that much. It's more of just chilly. It's tough for hockey, but
I'll agree. It gets a little chilly, but not to the point where it's like, I mean, even today, we're in the middle of or start of February, almost the middle of February, and you can just wear a light overcoat and you're still okay. It's nothing too crazy versus the negative 25 and lower that you'll see in Minnesota, where you're bundling up just to go outside. So it's been nice. It's been a good change, I think, from the weather's perspective.
Yeah, especially because when it does get warm here, it gets really warm. So that it's kind of a state where like it's kind of built for the colder sports, but it's good for warm sports too. It's kind of weird.
No, I've seen a little bit of that when I first moved out to Seattle. I think it was the heat wave, the second one, not the first one you guys had this summer. I think there was a couple days where it got to like the high 90s, 100, but it wasn't as long or as intense as the first heat wave that Seattle saw. So I got to see a little bit of changing weather around here.
Yeah, because it usually doesn't get that hot. When we consider hot, it's like 85-ish, but it was hot, and like every single person, like I was trying to play outside with my friends, and everyone was just laying on their couch with ice packs all over them. It's just so warm. Such a weird.
I can see it.
And then, so when you were in the NHL, you wore 71 with Tampa, and then 23 your other 2 years. Did those numbers, or do they now have any sentimental value to you?
Yeah, so 23 was the number my dad wore when he played football, so that was an easy pick for myself. And then 71 was pretty much the first number with my youth association. They went all the way up. I just so happened to get 71, so when I wasn't able to get 23, I went back to a number that I used as a youth hockey player.
Just to end it off, I was wondering if you had any tips for me just trying to get into broadcasting.
That's an interesting one. Considering I'm still new and young at this myself, I would just say that the best thing you can do is be you. That's something that John's taught me, and I think John Forsland's one of the best play-by-play in the NHL. He's been wonderful for myself, just reminding myself to be me. I don't have to try to change I'm not trying to be like John Forsland. I'm not trying to be like another broadcaster that's out there. And yes, you're going to get, little things here and there and learn from other broadcasters that you watch. But I think, the biggest thing he's taught me is just to remember who you are. There's no sense of trying to, put on an act to be like somebody else who's been successful in that role. You kind of have to carve your own way. So just reminding yourself to be who you are, let your own personality shine, and you'll eventually grow into the role of who you need to be that play-by-play or that broadcaster. So yeah, just making sure you just remind yourself to be you, and you're going to go far.
I got one more before I go. So you've been all over the world, all over the states and stuff. It's a big question that I ask all my people that I interview. How do you like your steak cooked, and what's your favorite steak place?
Oh, okay. So I like my steak cooked medium rare plus. So, and then if I had to choose one steak place, I'd have to choose Manny's in Minnesota. Manny's is in Minnesota. It's a steakhouse there. And they do a really good job, but I think the one really cool thing that they do that I haven't seen at a lot of other steakhouses is they wheel like this giant cart out that has all of the meat on it. So you can see like what exactly. So if you're like, oh, this is the cut, and then they hold up what that cut will look like, you know what I mean? So I think that's a cool little piece, whether it's the giant bone and T-bone steak, like you can see it right in front, like, oh, that's what I'm gonna order. You know what I mean? So I think that's a cool spot, and the food's fantastic. So every time I go back to Minnesota, that's one of the places I really like to try.
Well, then you don't have to worry about how big is this steak. It's just, here's your meat.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't think that's the actual one. I know they're like obviously still wrapped. Like that's not the prefer. I don't think you're getting that exact piece. Maybe you are. I don't know. But I think it's just a cool experience to be able to have it, a butcher cart wheeled out right in front of you, and you can see, exactly what the cut of meat looks like and what you're about to order.
All right. Well, I don't have any more questions. Thanks for doing this with me. See you guys all next time on Chad Talk Sports. Have a good day.